Get your earballs ready. Welcome to the Greg and Tim Show podcast. Take time to sit back and relax and enjoy the show. Here are your hosts, Greg and Tim.
I'm quiet. And now I'm loud. Near? You're gonna near? Far.
Okay.
Oh.
Are we having fun?
We're having a great time.
Okay, awesome.
Fantastic.
Hey, welcome back to the Greg and Tim Show. This is Greg, as you can see on my my Mr. Mug, Greg. My buddy here, Tim, has joined me with his Winnipeg Jets jersey on today. It must be game day.
It's game day. We're taping on a Saturday. We play the Leafs at 6. Got 2 of our reinforcements back. I'm looking forward to it.
Reinforcements.
Yep, Lordy and Morrissey is back. Shifley's getting held back with a sore lower body parts.
Groin area. He has been... This is going to be, I think, his 6th or 7th game missed. So
this
interesting.
Is 6, yeah.
But anyway, how was your week?
My week was really good.
Well, let's premise this. You said we're recording on Saturday.
Yep.
Which is weird.
Yeah.
Generally, we will record Wednesday evenings or Tuesday evenings sometime. But we're recording on Saturday today because... this week we have an interview coming up on Wednesday.
And we've recorded a couple interviews. Fantastic. Fantastic.
We have another good interview coming up on Wednesday.
Yeah, they'll get aired in a little bit of time, not yet. However, this next Wednesday, we're really pumped about it. And we're not going to tell anybody what it is, but all the guests that we've had, people are going to be very interested.
Riveting.
And this Wednesday, really looking forward to it.
So we can't record our regular podcast on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So we're recording it today. Yeah. And we got some topics that are fun and interesting, in my opinion. I believe they're fun and interesting. Yeah. And actually, a couple of topics we didn't talk about on the last podcast because we had a couple interviews.
Which was strange because I know you said it after we recorded it, but it's like it was such a departure because all we do is chit-chat and banter between the two of us. And last week it was like, okay, we talked for 5 seconds, nothing about our week. And then all of a sudden we had a couple interviews. So I think it was just different, which I think is good. Good is different.
Different is good.
But people were like...
good isn't different. Different is good.
Different is good. Well, good can be different.
Let's face it.
Yeah, let's face it. But it was like we didn't get your therapy as far as... because I know the thing that you like to, that's why you did the whole podcast, is you need somebody to talk to because your wife, she's busy. She doesn't have time to really debrief with you. So you need this time to say how your week is going, and you didn't get that. And that's another reason why we recorded just after we did the first one. So I'm going to ask you, how was your week, Greg?
So my week's been very good. We have been very busy once again this week. We got a lot going on for the end of the month, and work's busy. The podcast is fun. We had the interviews, which the podcast that just came out last week, which basically right now was yesterday, is doing very good. And I'm very pumped about that because we got some new viewers. We got some new people watching. And if you haven't watched one of our podcasts before, we change it up every now and again. We've got some interviews coming up. We're going to do some banter every now and again. We talk about sports. We talk about current events. We talk about issues, entertainment. Taylor Swift, she slides into the conversation every now and again with Travis Kelce
and Jason Kelce.
And Jason Kelce, was awesome. He's so good. Yeah. If we can get Jason Kelce, that is going to be, I'm going to work on that.
If we get Jason Kelce, we're all taking our shirts off on the podcast.
And
that's the only way that Greg's going to let me take.
And I'm going to carry my child to say hi to Taylor Swift.
We'll all carry our children. It doesn't matter if they're 5'10". We're just going to carry them.
But so
Taylor would die.
So it's been a fun week. Cruz had hockey today.
And big news, right, on that front?
Big news. I actually totally forgot because we didn't talk about it earlier. Yeah. Cruz got called up to A2 this weekend, so he gets to play an A2 game, which is fantastic. Thank you for reminding me. So he's really, really pumped because this is something that he's been working hard towards. He plays A3. This is his first year in hockey, and then he's going to move up to A2. So we should hit the old clapper button on the... No, I can't reach it from here.
Do we have that technology?
We do.
For another
do you want to hear it?
For another segment.
Is it this one? Is that popping?
Do you have a laugh button? Or an applause? Do you have laugh buttons?
That was applause.
Yeah, it was applause. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have drum roll?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to need the...
That one's supposed to be the drum roll.
It wasn't very good?
Yeah, it did.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so...
And then this one?
That one's the drum roll. That's the badum shit.
Okay.
Okay, what's this one?
There's like a little bit of music first, and then it does it.
Oh, and then this is what happens.
There you go. Did everyone hear when you did that, like on the podcast? Could they hear it, or just?
So they could hear it.
By the way, Julian is doing sound.
Yeah, we have, because it's a Saturday. Billy doesn't work on Saturdays. He's unionized.
Yeah, he's missed the last 4 weeks.
He's here on Wednesday.
I think he left the team for personal reasons, and we were not telling the viewer.
Yeah, that's another thing that's happening.
Let's not get into that. Anyway, and I might need the drum roll for another segment if
it's not a drum roll. It's a ba-doom.
Do we have a drum roll?
No, I can just play a drum roll if you want.
So and before we go on to how my week was, how was the no sugar, no carb thing going?
Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah,
it's been okay, and and I've cheated every now and again.
Oh, come on! And that's why I stayed at 9.
Yeah, this last week I didn't do as great with it, so I'm still at -9 pounds, which is still good.
Yeah,
I'm still happy with it.
Right.
And if I can, just
so you tried and you failed. The lesson is,
here's the thing. My challenges are challenges, and they're 30-day challenges for a reason.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I can do them and sometimes I cannot. I have done the no sugar challenge for 30 days before and it worked out really well. This one was tougher. It's the end of the month now. It's been tougher, but I've been better in terms of food altogether.
Yeah.
So I've eaten less food, so less snacking, less garbage food.
Yeah.
But and my meals have generally been no sugar meals, but every now and again I've cheated.
Right.
And it's, I feel bad every time.
Yeah.
But,
it's funny that you just talked about another topic that we won't get into, and I'm not sure we can get into, but when you said that also brought another topic into my head too, is that, and we don't have time to do it today, but emotional eating.
Yeah.
Like when people get stressed and their response to it, not only overeating, but what they're eating. Like there's comfort.
And then when they eat crap food, they feel bad about it afterwards.
Right.
Like, and I didn't feel bad. I felt bad because of the challenge. I didn't feel bad because of the food.
Yeah.
The food makes me feel good.
Right.
I'm not going to lie.
So I asked a buddy of mine this too. He's like, I said, okay, so when you have your cheat days or when you're like emotionally eating, why do you eat? Like I can understand eating something, but why do you eat certain things? So he's like, my friend ate pizza. And he's like, well, I think I eat pizza because it's comfort food in that when I grew up, when we were young, every Friday night would be family night and it would be pizza night. So it equates family with pizza, with comfort. And so when he goes, and goes off of his diet, and he's a big health nut just like us.
Yeah.
That's why he specifically doesn't eat this or that. He eats pizza.
Yeah.
But the psychology of it, and I was talking to somebody this week about how they had, that they did that too. And it's like, well, it's really tricky.
So we are going to get into it?
Well,
I'm just kidding.
Let's we won't get into it now, but I think
we should get into it another week.
And we did actually talk about it with one of the guests that we're not naming at this point.
One thing I am going to do starting this podcast is something that was suggested to me this morning during the breakfast.
Yeah.
Is to stop undervaluing you. Because you are valuable to the podcast. You do provide the topics, you provide information, you do research, you do all the research on the moon stuff, which I did no research on because I just moderated, and you provide a lot of valuable information. So I am not going to undervalue you, and I don't feel like I have, but I've been told that I overvaluate myself. So that's fine.
So here's the problem. And it's not a problem. It's just a reality of the situation is you do 75% of everything. 75, 80%. You do the vast majority of it because a lot of it's editing, a lot of it's setting up the technical aspect of it. And to this point, at least I don't have the ability to do it. And if I were to learn it, which I will, the time frame or the growth curve is so incredibly big for me because I've never done it.
Yeah.
And so that's left for you to do all the editing. It is your place that we do the taping.
It'd be great to have like a person that comes every episode that is like our technical producer.
Eventually,
because that'll help.
Eventually, like I talked about that person we want to get on the podcast, but they have 1.5 million subscribers. Just subscribers.
Yeah.
Who knows how many people watch it? Maybe millions of people. Well, they're already making money off the podcast and they can afford to have somebody in that seat where they wouldn't do it. They'd send off here.
So what we're saying is we need 1.5 million subscribers.
So if we don't get to 1 million subscribers by next week,
the podcast will be canceled.
No, I'll take my shirt off. No,
no, shirt off.
That's a challenge to you out there.
How was your week?
I digress. So the week was great. I'm going to talk about the challenge as well on my aspect.
Yeah.
So a couple of nights ago, I had a craving for a bath. Like, you know, you have a craving
I know, you
for
texted
gelato.
Me. Like, I'm craving a bath.
And I was like, I was cold. And it's my comfort to sit in that bath. And it's like, oh.
Don't you have a heated blanket or anything?
I do, but then I'm in bed. I wasn't ready for bed. And so I did, one night I cheated. And I did
You cheated too?
Yeah, I had a bath. I had one bath. And it felt so good.
You know why you cheated?
Why?
Because you, the other time when you were over here for the podcast for the interview, you left.
Yeah.
And then you came back, and I was sitting there eating a piece of cake.
No,
it was sugar-free cake, but the icing wasn't.
Yeah, I was like, "This is sugar-free cake," and then was the icing? No.
But I'm sitting there eating the cake, and you walk in the door, and I'm like, "Oh crap!"
That's not why I did it.
So you cheated.
It was like 4 days later. It wasn't at the same time.
No, I know, but
and so that was that. And then I couldn't shower for 2 days because there was a huge water main break.
Oh,
there was like 3 or 4 water main breaks on our street. We were without water for 2 days.
Yeah,
I couldn't take a bath, shower. I had to truck in.
The Sanderson house stunk.
Yeah. Well, no. I actually ended up boiling water to do dishes after a day and a half, and then finally we got it after 2 days.
Did you wash your body with a rag on a stick?
I wash myself with a rag on a stick.
Pretty much. No, I came here.
I
washed myself in your hot tub on Sunday after our interview. Had the interview that we did. But yeah, so that was, but otherwise it's been good. Actually, in fact, I did a couple of days where I tried the cold water thing.
Yeah.
And I couldn't put it over my head yet because of the ear.
Of your ear.
I can't get it to do that. But I did try putting it cold and just sitting there. And if you sit really, really still, it's not too bad. And of course it's just on, this or my back or whatever. Yeah. It's not on my head, but it's not too bad that you move a little bit.
Did you lift up your arms and get it on the armpits? That's a sensitive area.
I tried to stay as still as I could and I probably did it wrong. But
did
at least
you close your eyes?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
No colors.
No color.
Yeah.
Well, you saw color when you open your eyes.
Right. But you said that when you had
vibrant.
It's vibrant and everything comes to life.
Didn't
do that for me, but I probably didn't do it right either. So, but I tried. I'd like to get, and there's a funny thing that we can't talk about.
We'll just get Tammy to help you next time.
Yeah. Showering.
With a rag on a stick.
And so this past weekend, actually it's cool because my daughter Raina, my oldest, turned 20.
Who's been on a previous episode?
Yeah. So
your head.
She actually turned 20 today.
And every time, just a clear, I know I'm interrupting you. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Just to clear things up. If you're listening on Spotify, when I say it's above Tim's head, on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, a little link pops up above our heads when we say that, and you can click on it and watch other episodes that we reference. So anyway, go ahead.
So if you're listening to it, you can't click on anything?
If you're listening on Spotify, there's no clicking.
Just keep clicking on the screen. Where is it? Where is it?
I thought it was above his head.
So Raina turned 20. We only have 2 teenagers left in the house.
Yeah.
Turned 20 today. My daughter Taylor and my wife Tammy and Tammy's mother Judy, they went to Toronto to surprise Raina.
My grandma came too. I told you she loves me.
Yeah, so they got there on the Thursday. And
Judy's a great name.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. It's fantastic.
No, I'm serious. Solid. It's a solid, Judy. I like that name.
So they surprised
her. Is that Bernard's mom?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Bernard.
Bernard, yeah.
Give him a shout out.
And so they got there on the Thursday, got there a bit late. There was a bit of a delay on the plane. And then Raina, they took the bus from Kingston to Toronto, and then they met them at the hotel. So we have video of that, them surprising them. And it was she was quite surprised. And they're playing today as well. So 2 straight days of games.
Yeah.
They got killed yesterday, but hopefully
Raina didn't get to play.
And she only played 4 points.
Yeah.
But hopefully today they do a little bit better.
Yeah.
And Raina gets a little bit more playing time, but she's in her first year, so not getting a lot of playing time is kind of expected.
Par for the course.
So, and then my wife and the rest of the family come back tomorrow on the Sunday, and
shout out to Tim's wife.
Yeah, Tammy.
She's already back.
Yeah, miss her already. That's
you
right.
Miss her?
Yeah, miss her.
That's sad.
Yeah. Anyway, so So it's been a good week. We've
Yep.
we taped a couple of we taped the interview on the Sunday.
Yeah.
That went great.
This is our third
this
taping
week, right? In
a week.
in 6
7
days.
days.
Or 7 days. Yeah, 3. So we did one taping and two podcast tapings.
Yeah.
One interview and 2 regular podcasts.
Yeah.
So it's been busy.
We're getting ready for vacation.
Yeah, we are, and which is also what I'm looking forward to too, because less than a month I'm heading off to San Fran, take a cruise, and looking forward to that.
We're a bunch into the podcast already. Yeah. Should we roll?
We could roll.
Okay.
What if we hopped? Could we hop one day?
It's podcast time. Let's hop into it.
Hop in doing it. I have to turn this around.
You're putting your name? You're putting your name
on? It's difficult because if I do this on this side,
it just says
Tim
Greg and
doesn't
Tim
go
Show.
there. So
cheers.
Cheers.
Grab your phone. It's podcast time. It's the Greg and Tim Show. It's the Greg and Tim Show.
Okay, Tim, let's get into the first topic that you brought, because just to let you guys know, Tim has prepared the entire show today. So he's brought the topics to the table, and he's literally prepared the whole show, and I'm flying by the seat of my pants. I'm not going to lie. So I'm not gonna lie.
So just like
the seat of my pants are flying.
So just like we didn't have a chance to talk about our week at the last record, because we had those fantastic interviews, by the way, that you can go back and watch. They were great.
Yep.
Really pumped about
linked
those.
Above Tim's head if you're watching on YouTube.
We also didn't talk about our lives, and we also didn't talk about sports. And sorry to Wade out there who is really appreciative that when you don't talk about sports, we're going to spend some time about talking about sports, because lots of sports going on.
Lots of stuff has happened.
Lots of stuff is happening. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Oilers, and they have won 14.
The spoilers.
14 straight games. They started the year horribly.
As of taping, they've won 14 straight.
Yeah, they started the year horribly. We were making fun of them, but we both knew they're too good to stay down. And yes, they have bounced back in a big way. 14 straight games that they've won, which is the longest streak for any Canadian hockey team. The record is for the Penguins, Yager, Mario, and company in the early 90s. They have 17, so they're closing on the all-time record. So
you think they get it? By the time this is taped, I don't know.
I think
that there's a break coming up.
Yeah, that's right. So they think they play a tough game against Vegas, and then there's a break, and they would beat it. No, it's the Vegas game afterwards.
Oh, okay.
So it's going to be difficult. I think they fall just short.
Is this the last day of games for a week?
The last day for the Jets. I don't know if it's the last day for all the NHL. I think they might play tomorrow, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's been really, really, really great for them. But I wanted to get
horrible as a Jets fan, because as a Jets fan, the Oilers are probably the least liked team in all of hockey.
So I wanted to get into that a little bit.
Okay.
And why I personally can't stand the Edmonton Oilers, because I think I have PTSD about it.
Yeah.
But a little bit of a history lesson. I don't know if you know this. Tell me how much you know this story. But do you know how Wayne Gretzky came to the Edmonton Oilers?
So the backstory is that Barry Shenkarow lost a game of backgammon to the owner of the Oilers, which gave them rights to the...
So back in 1978, I don't know if anyone knows this, but Mark Messier and Wayne Gretzky, their first professional hockey team was not the Edmonton Oilers.
No, it was the Indianapolis Speed Racers?
Close, Racers. Just take away the speed, it's Speed Racers. And in 1978,
I read Mark Messier's book. Okay. It's fantastic.
Backtracking a little bit, the NHL in the 1970s, a little bit like the NBA. Like now they're very financially set.
Yeah.
They're doing very well. They make a ton of money. But back in the 70s, some of these leagues were struggling quite a bit.
Yep.
And along came a competing league called the WHA, the World Hockey Association.
Yep. Which the Winnipeg Jets were also in.
And the Winnipeg Jets were the flagship team who won a bunch of trophies.
The Avco Cup?
The Avco Cup, right?
They won the last Avco Cup ever.
Yeah, and they won the most Avco Cups.
I think they won 3.
So they became a problem, I think 3 or 4. They became a problem for the NHL because they started poaching players. I think Gordie Howe went there.
No, not Gordie Howe. Brett Hull.
Sorry.
Bobby Hull.
Actually, I think Gordie Howe
not Gordie
play 1 year.
Gordie Howe went to the Hartford Whalers.
Right.
And I think that was in the WHA.
Right. So, but the biggest signing was in Winnipeg. I think there's a story about how Bobby Hull had no intention of signing with the WHA, but they offered him so much money,
$1 million.
I think as a joke, a little bit like Austin Powers, $1 million, and he just because he thought it was a joke, and they're never going to. And sure enough, a bunch of them got together and said, "Okay, we'll give you $1 million," and he said, "Oh." And then that's when he signed with the Jets, and then he had that line with Hedberg and Nielsen.
Hey, give me one sec here.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want me to keep talking, or do you want me?
Well,
Okay.
you can if you want.
So then that league competed for a number of years. I'm gonna wait for Greg a little bit here. I'm gonna wait for him. Okay.
I'm back.
So while you're looking at this, let me finish the story, and then you can tell whatever thing you have to tell here. So the NHL has a competing league, and then the WHA is starting to fade. The NHL sees the opportunity to kill the league, and they fold 4 teams into the NHL: the Oilers, the Hartford Whalers, the Jets, and Quebec, I think, are the 4 teams, and that kills the NHL. But before then, as the WHA is trying to salvage their league, and these owners are trying to have enough money to stay afloat, Indianapolis owner Nelson Skalbania was his name. I think he wanted some money, kind of like the Babe Ruth deal. That's a different story. He wanted $700,000 because he thought that would keep his team afloat, which it didn't. And so he
actually fell off.
He was looking for a trade partner for Gretzky.
Yeah,
I'm not sure about where Messier fits in this whole equation, but he wanted to trade Wayne Gretzky to another team for $700,000. And the owner of the Winnipeg Jets his name was Michael Gabati. The owner of the Edmonton Oilers was Peter Pocklington at that time, and it was one of those 2 teams, because you have to remember they're both going into the NHL from the WHA.
They both got accepted to go into the NHL.
Right. So it's one of those teams he's going to trade Gretzky to. And there's a story about Michael Gabati playing cards or some game, backgammon with Nelson Skalbania and losing, but we don't know if that's true or not.
With Barry Shankarow.
Barry Shankarow came later, or he was a junior partner or something, but it was Michael Gabati.
Okay.
And so Wayne Gretzky went to the Edmonton Oilers for whatever reason, but he came this close to coming to the Winnipeg Jets. Fast forward 1979, 1980, 81, where they come into the league and the Jets are horrible.
When the Jets came into the league, into the WHA, or from the WHA to the NHL, they were only allowed to protect a certain amount of players.
Yeah.
And at that time, the Jets had a team that was good enough to compete against any team in the NHL.
Yeah.
And possibly destroy them.
Yeah.
And the NHL did not want that. The NHL did not want a team to come into the league and instantly win a Stanley Cup with a team that they had in the WHA.
Right.
So they had a dispersal draft.
Yeah.
So all their players got dispersed, and they had to bring in new players and a whole bunch of young guys. So the Jets had what was called the hotline. So I got this guy right here. So as Tim was saying earlier, this is what I went to grab. Hedberg, Hull, and Nilsson. Ulf Nilsson, Anders Hedberg, and Bobby Hull. I got this signed by the hotline. 2018 playoffs. They were here for a reunion.
Yeah.
So, and then I also got this. This is a book about the hotline.
Awesome.
So I don't know if you can see that in the camera. Yeah, you can see that. So that is Hedberg, Hull, and Nilsson. This book was written by Jeff Kurbison. I don't know if you remember him as big guy, but So
since then, Bobby Hull has passed.
Yeah. So these are collector's items now, but it's very much like this team that was together in WHA could have been a dynasty in the NHL.
I mean, Bobby Hull was getting on in age, so it's debatable whether he would have been.
But he might not have been. But Nilsson and Hedberg,
for sure.
And as Jets fans, it really, like, I wasn't around when this happened, but like the Jets lore and history goes in that like they got stripped down to nothing and had to rebuild.
Yeah.
And in the process of rebuilding, the Oilers were already getting better.
And they started rebuilding with Mark Messier and Wayne Gretzky. Can you think of 2 better players that are young at the time? Leaders and players in general to start your team with.
And they were young.
And then
Gretzky was only 18, I think.
That's right. Fast forward though 5 years, they're winning cups, right? They're overtaking the Islanders as the dynasty in the NHL. And then, not only that, but they won those
one of
4
those
cups.
two, Hedberg or Nielsen, play for the Islanders after the dispersal?
I think it was a different Nielsen. It was Kent Nielsen.
Nielsen.
Yeah. But I think it was a different one.
Okay. But anyway, so yes, as you said, like the Oilers start winning Stanley Cups, and the Jets had to rebuild essentially, but they rebuilt with a young man named
Dale Hawerchuk.
Yeah, and then
there's
there's
a number drop because they were so bad that first year. That
there's
was
video of him. Do you remember how he came out of like for the signing? Do you remember what the Jets did as a PR thing for the signing of him?
I remember all the
Maine?
pictures, but I don't remember what you're talking about specifically.
So, Dale Hawerchuk, 18 years old.
Yeah.
Portage and Maine's shut down for the signing of the contract.
Saw all those pictures.
A Brinks truck pulls up.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And out walks Dale Hawerchuk with 2 ladies on his arm out of the Brinks truck.
He stepped out of a Brinks truck at the corner of Portage and Maine. What was going through his head that day? He was just out of high school, and here he was at Winnipeg's iconic corner, being greeted by thousands.
Only in the 80s, eh?
The Jets literally brought out a Brinks truck.
Didn't they do Brinks truck for Hull too? I thought.
I don't remember, but I know I just watched the video recently of the Dale Hawerchuk signing, and I'm like, man, back in the day, things were
that was the
fun.
80s.
They
that
were
was
fun.
The 80s. I was 4 years old. Don't remember that. Obviously, I didn't even get into sports till I was like 6 or 7.
Yeah, like when it happened, but we look back at it because since Dale Hawerchuk has passed, there's been a lot of
it's sad.
A lot of stuff. Like we lost Hull and Hawerchuk now, 2 of the top players ever to play for the Jets.
Yeah, you could argue the two top.
Other than Solani, who played only for 2.5, 3 years. Like these guys were icons here, and there's a lot of like in memoriam things and everything like that you can watch online. But watching Dale Hawerchuk, when I was a kid, I came down here. I used to live up north, and my dad would take me down here, and I went to 2 or 3 games. One against the Kings, which I remember Ron Duguay.
I remember the flowing hair
with no helmet and flowing hair, and Dale Hawerchuk down there. And my dad liked Dale Hawerchuk as a love-hate relationship with him, right? Like kind of like what we do with guys like Wheeler back in the day when he was around. Like we loved Wheeler when he played well. Yeah. But every now and again he'd make a boneheaded play and my dad would yell, "Ducky!" Yeah. Because that was Dale Hawerchuk's nickname, Ducky.
Yes. Did you know that you remember that period of time after his career was done and he had all those great stats, and people thought that because he played in Winnipeg most of his prime seasons that he should have been in the Hall of Fame, and there was like this delay to get in the Hall of Fame, and there was this outcry. You know that I did a campaign with my buddy when I was 20 years old to get him to Hall of Fame. We were in the Free Press. We would like take donations and it would go to like charities and stuff like that. But we got all these signatures. Yeah. And it was like actually going pretty far. And then Scott O'Neill contacted us and said, Dale Hawerchuk doesn't want you to do that anymore. he wants to get in on his own merit.
Dale Hawerchuk
so Arneal actually contacted us.
And Arneal's now the assistant captain or assistant coach again with the Jets.
Yeah. So we stopped it, but we were in the Free Press and everything was great. But going back to the Oilers and Jets, like I said, the Oilers won those 4 cups. Yeah. And if it wasn't for the Oilers, because they played in the Smythe, which is our division, who knows where we would have been, especially in '85.
The old Smythe division, man. Yeah. The Canucks, the Oilers, and the Jets. Who was the 4th team in that division?
Kings.
The Kings.
Yeah.
So
the Flames.
The year that the Oilers won the Stanley Cup, was it 89, the last year with Gretzky?
88, 89, one of those 2 years. I can't remember.
I think it was 89. Fact check me all you want on this one. But the last year that Gretzky won the Stanley Cup, my dad actually bought the tape for it, and I'm pretty sure I have it. I'm not going to go look for that. That'll take me forever. Yeah. But the tape was called A Year to Remember. Right. And the worst part, like I loved hockey. Yeah. So as a kid, you're not as like mad about other teams as you do when you get older because you don't have that history. Like as a kid, I'm like 8, 9 years old.
Yeah, tell that to me in 1990 when I'm crying on my couch.
Yeah, but you would have been like 13 and 14. How old were you in 1990?
14, you're right.
14. So you would have been 14. I would have only been 10. So you would have had 4 extra years to dislike a team more, right? You develop a dislike for teams. Right now, my son likes the Oilers because he likes McDavid. Right. But if he also likes the Jets. Yeah. So eventually the Oilers are going to break his heart and he's going to dislike the Oilers. So
or McDavid gets traded.
I didn't dislike the Oilers as much, but here's the thing: I watched that tape so much,
right?
Probably for like 4 or 5 years. I watched that tape every now and again because I loved the history behind it. It was the Bruins game with the Oilers, the fog rolled in and the lights went out. But that was the year that the Jets lost to the Oilers in overtime, shorthanded. When Gretzky took the slap shot from just on top of the circle, and the narrator goes, "The Oilers are shorthanded going into overtime, but they weren't shorthanded. They had the great one." And
I could watch
like
that
even right now, I can still get chills about it because I'm like, this was the greatest player to ever play hockey. I went to that year.
Debatable, but
I went to that year in the playoffs. I sat front row in the upper deck, which was the most amazing seat at the old Winnipeg Arena. Front row, upper deck with the glass in front of you, and the people were banging on the glass. It was a rocking place, and I even have the pom-poms, which again, they're just around the corner outside the door from that game still, because it was such a great game. Yes, the Oilers broke my heart, but at the same time, I was young enough to really appreciate how good the Oilers were.
And not only that, they won those cups, and then they turn around, they trade Gretzky, and they retool. And of course, they were never the same, but they retooled and beat us in 1990 when we were up 3-1, which really broke my heart.
So and then that was
this is my PTSD. This is my talking about things through and hashing my feelings out.
It was Oilers, right? Flames, and then Oilers again. And then somebody else, and then the Canadians, or no, somebody else, and then a lockout, then the Canadians, and never since that Canadians win has a Canadian team won a Stanley Cup. So like the Canadian teams won like 6 out of 8 years,
and now they haven't,
and they haven't won a Stanley Cup since Gary Bettman became the commissioner.
Well, since money. It was all about money. But
Gary Bettman became the commissioner.
Yeah, his whole objective was to make money for the owners. So you could argue the stability is better. The chances for a Canadian team winning goes down. But it depends on which one.
We're not going to get into it
so
again.
Going back to the NHL and the whole thing about the Oilers. So there's 4 teams. Remember when the WHA collapsed, and you could argue the NHL didn't want those 4 teams, but that was a price to pay to get them out. And since then, Quebec City's been lost. They've lost their team. Hartford's lost their team. Winnipeg did lose their team. Right? We got one back, and you could argue they didn't want us back in the first place because we just saved their bacon with Atlanta for the Thrashers, and who knows how long the Jets are going to be here. That's another discussion for another day. And you could argue the Edmonton Oilers could be gone too if it weren't for like they had all
the new arena
and all that success, which the new arena is because of all that success. Did I ever tell you the story of the second last game in '96 that the Jets played? Do you remember the series they played in their last playoff series before they left? Do you remember who they played?
The Detroit Red Wings.
The Red Wings, right?
Yep.
And they lost the first 2 games in Detroit.
We had Nikolai Habibulin, and they had Chris Osgood.
And we won game 3 back in Winnipeg, 4-1. Norm McIver scored the winner.
Yeah.
Remember Norm McIver?
Yeah.
And then game 4, our group that we talked to still, like Matthew, and I'll name a bunch of other stuff, and the people, Jason, et cetera. We were going to go to game 4.
I remember your story about this.
And I don't know if somebody was in charge of buying tickets for the entire group.
Yeah.
And we must have been 7 or 8 people going to that game, right? So like, okay, thanks, taking care of it. We paid him the money or whatever. It wasn't that much.
You're
at
not
that
going to throw him under the bus.
Maybe I won't. He doesn't listen, I don't think.
Okay.
But he rhymes with Mason. But so we get to our seats, and we're in the end zone. So they're not really expensive seats, right? We're kind of at the north end.
7-Eleven.
Yeah,
really tall.
I'm sure $30 or $40 would have got us in. 50 maybe max. I can't remember how much they were.
Oh, they would have been way cheaper than that back then. But anyway, go on.
Anyway, so we get to our seats and we're sitting there. Oh, we're all pumped at the game. We're got the Jets game, and we're in the playoffs. The White House happening. We're all super pumped. And then
back then they ripped your tickets to get in the game.
Paper tickets, right? And so then all of a sudden people are walking up to our seats and say, "Hey, you're in our seats." Like, no, these are our seats. You say row 21, seat 1 to 8. And no, ours say the same thing. And then, so we slowly try to figure this out. And then we look at our tickets and it says game 3.
So your seats were empty for a whole game.
My buddy, he got tickets for game 3 instead of game 4. And of course, two people can't sit in the seat, right? No. And so they're like, okay.
And it's sold out.
So True North or
no, it was.
Yeah, that's right. It wasn't True North.
It was Winnipeg Enterprises.
Yeah, Winnipeg Enterprises. We get to the box office. Sorry, guys, there's nothing we can do. This game is sold out. But you know what? We feel bad because, obviously you didn't know, or it was a mistake or whatever. Yeah. Even though we've never heard that mistake before, but maybe I'm sure it's happened. So we said, for what we're going to do is we're going to give you 50% off any event you want to go to. You want to go to Celine Dion? That's fine. 50%. Metallica.
I don't think it was sleep. Yeah, I guess.
Metallica, 50%. Guns N' Roses, 50%. Any event you want. Another game next year, 50% off. And so I think 5 out of the 7 of our group said, yeah, sure, whatever. Took the coupon and left, right? And Matthew and I says, no, we're not going anywhere. We're here for game 4. This could be the last year that we're here. This is not happening. We aren't leaving. Yeah. And we refused to leave. And we're arguing with them. And finally, the guy's like, okay, come with me. This security guy, you stand by him. You move, you get kicked out. And we stayed the rest of the game.
And watched from
we watched from the upper deck. We lost in that game and whatever. Then
that was a sad game too.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't the last game because we won at Detroit and we came back, and then it was at that game too. Actually, game 6 that we lost, and that was really sad.
We lost game 6. That was a tough one because even then we didn't have a great team. Yeah. Like, we were the underdogs going into that for sure. And at the time, the Detroit Red Wings were just becoming a dynasty. Yeah. I would call them a dynasty. They made the playoffs from like a couple years before that, all the way up until maybe like 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. They made the playoffs every year.
Yeah. Well, that was the Yzerman Fedorov.
No, it wasn't just Yzerman Fedorov. They also had Lidstrom, the Datsuk and the Lidstrom. And
Datsuk, was he playing for the Red Wings back then?
Yeah.
Yeah, 96?
Yeah. Not in 96. No, I'm talking about all the years.
Yeah.
Like, the Red Wings were so good under Ken Holland that they never missed the playoffs. Yeah. And the Red Wings are another team that became a very big thorn in the Jets' side because I think they lost 2 years in a row to the Red Wings, and the Jets actually made a big trade between the Red Wings and them, where they traded Bob Essenza at the time, being their number 1 goalie, to the Red Wings for Tim Cheveldae, and we didn't make the playoffs that year. Bob Essenza got to make the playoffs that year. They didn't win that year, though.
The joke about Cheveldae is he almost got hit by a bus, but luckily he went through his legs, eh?
He was not the greatest goalie, but he was our but he brought us Javi Bulin.
Yeah, that's true.
Because Javi Bulin was a direct
that's true.
Reason for, and it's the same with Pavlik, right? Yeah. Pavlik brought us Hellebuck. Yeah. Now. So anyway, so
that's a little bit. That's a little bit getting off my chest, and like I said, I had a bit of PTSD. But that's the history of the Oilers, and you know what? Till to this day, I don't want them to win.
No, we still don't.
I was like, I hope they don't get the record. I hope they lose in the first round, and I'm so sorry for anyone from Edmonton or Oiler fans. I'm sorry. I don't want to use the word hate, but I kind of hate them.
You dislike them with a passion. Yeah. And the problem is they've got McDavid and Draisaitl, which was like Gretzky and Messier. Yeah. You know, they got Nurse in the back end, and they've got like all the like young guys that are like a Curry and like.
And to those people who just don't get it, like the social fan doesn't understand. It's just a game. But when you grow up with this kind of stuff, it's just a game, but it's like, anyway.
It's still just a game.
If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about.
Let's move on.
Move on.
So I wanted to talk about this one and then you prepared it. So great job on you. The Bombers have named their brand new stadium.
So all 3 of our teams have changed their name in the last 5 years.
No, in the last year.
Right. So
Bell MTS Place has changed to Canada Life Center last year. So last year was, I think, their first year doing that. Okay. This year, Shaw Park changed to Blue Cross?
Something like that. And that's where the Gold Ice play.
Blue Cross Field? I don't know. Is that what it's called? Oh, man. Anyway, and then
it better be.
The Bombers changed from Investors Group Field to IG Field for a while ago because Investors Group rebranded from Investors Group to IG. Yep. And now the Bombers' contract with IG has ended, so they've got a brand new stadium name, and their brand new stadium is the
Princess Auto Field.
Stadium.
Princess Auto Stadium.
So they've gone back to stadium, but that's fine. I'm glad that it's stadium again and not field.
So some people are making fun of the fact that it's Princess Auto. I mean, maybe it's the princess part of it. I don't know.
Yeah, and like people are like, they're going to call it the PA?
Yeah.
PAS.
Yeah.
Are they going to call it PA Stadium? Are they going to call it Princess Stadium?
But
are they going to call it the Toolbox, the Shed?
I like that.
Right.
But this is it. This is what our day and age is whoever has the most money, doesn't matter how goofy the name of the company is, they get naming rights because it is all about the cash, right? And that's what our field is. So I have prepared. Do you want to add anything about the whole stadium?
No.
Do you like it or dislike it?
I don't care.
Okay.
I'm going to call it the stadium.
Okay.
We're going to the stadium.
Right.
I've always called it the stadium.
Right.
Winnipeg Stadium used to be Winnipeg Stadium, and then it was Canadian Stadium. I didn't say I'm going to Canadians.
Right.
I said I'm going to the stadium.
Yeah.
When I go to the Jets games, I'm like, I'm going to the arena.
Yeah.
That's just like, I don't even call it Canada Life Place or CLP or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I just call it the arena.
Right.
So it doesn't bother me one way or another what the names are, but there are some goofy names out there, and I think you prepared something for that.
You ever watch David Letterman?
Yes,
Yeah.
top 10 list.
Top 10 list.
Should we roll the top 10 list music?
Yeah, let's do it. So yeah, he would always have. It was. I was trying to get a blue placard because he always had that blue.
Well, he had
placard.
the cards,
Yeah.
and then he would.
So he would do like.
Well, he would have a whole bunch of cards,
and then he would throw it and break the glass or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, I have the top 10 worst stadium names.
Do you have them written down somewhere?
Right behind me.
Oh, you're gonna read them off of there.
Yeah. Number 10.
Number 10. Do you want me to read them?
Canadian Tire Center in Ottawa.
Ottawa.
Number 9. Guaranteed Rate Field, Chicago for the White Sox.
What's wrong with Guaranteed Rate Field? I don't mind it.
Guaranteed Rate? I don't know.
Guaranteed Win Field.
So you don't like that one? Okay.
I don't mind it. It's not in the top 10 to me.
Number 8. Sleep Train Arena.
Sleep
Sacramento Kings. I did not know
The Sleep Train.
that's what the name of it was for Sacramento, but
That's kind of funny.
Northern California.
Yeah.
Number 7, Talking Stick Resort Arena, Phoenix.
Talking Stick, that's where the Suns play. And it's, isn't it a native company that owns that?
Well, I would think so.
Indigenous company? I don't know what they call it in the States.
I don't know. But yes, what you're saying is correct.
Okay.
Yep. Number 6, Crypto.com Arena, LA Kings, LA Lakers. Used to be called Staples.
Staples Center, yeah.
And before that, it was called, I think the old was called the Forum, right?
No, the Forum was the old arena.
Right, but that's where they play.
I think it's always been called the Staples Center.
Yeah, Staples Center is a little bit cooler. I mean, they're both businesses, but
Yeah.
Crypto.com, I don't know about that. Number 5, PPG Paints Arena.
This one's your
in
favorite.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. For
It used to be called the Igloo.
The Igloo, but that was the Melon, right?
And then it was called Melon Arena.
Yeah.
And now it's PPG Paints. I think they still call it the Igloo.
Yeah.
Because it's where the Penguins play, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
And of course, PPG Paints, Dulux Paints. That's where I get my paints.
Dulux.
So shout out there where I get it often anyway.
Sponsorships.
Yeah, Dulux. Yeah, call us. Number 4, there is a AA affiliate baseball team in Texas, and their field is called the Whataburger Field.
Whataburger.
You ever been to Whataburger?
Have you had a Whataburger? I have.
I have, yeah.
It's good. I like it.
In San Fran, right by the wharf.
Super good. There's a
I've
lot
only
in
been there
Texas.
once.
There's a lot in Texas.
Yeah.
They have like a W on all their buildings.
Yeah.
It looks like the Wonder Woman W.
Right.
But yeah, Whataburger.
Yeah, Whataburger.
I like it.
So anyway, number 3, the Smoothie King Center,
Smoothie King.
New Orleans.
You know what? And that's the
For the
Pelicans.
yes.
That's crazy. That's a major sports team.
Yeah.
What I don't get is how these are the deepest pockets
Yeah.
in that city to sponsor an arena. Like
Hey, Smoothie King. I guess they're
Princess-
selling a lot of smoothies.
nothing against Princess Auto. Princess Auto is a great business,
Local.
and they're local. But how do they have the most money corporately to sponsor a stadium out of all the corporations?
Yeah.
I don't know. Go on. Next one.
And number 2, the Tony Macaroni Arena in Scotland for football, or how we call it soccer. Tony Macaroni. Tony Macaroni. Never been there.
The number one worst
Number 1
sports
worst
facility
sports
name.
name. The KFC Yum Center in Louisville. Kentucky. I went by that stadium that I couldn't believe it was called that. KFC Yum. It's right there. And that is the top 10 list.
The KFC Yum Center. It's called the KFC Center.
Yum. Hey, isn't there what's a donut place? Yum Yum Donuts? There's a Yum Yum Donuts too. Yeah, there is.
I don't know.
Gaffigan makes fun of it.
Oh,
What's your donut place? Is it Donut King? The place you're
Donut King.
Are you gonna go there?
Yeah, we gotta go. Well, I'm gonna go there, but I don't know if we'll have time to go there when we go for our trip. But I'll go there with my trip.
Oh yeah, your trip. Yeah.
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 Anyway, you want to roll on to the topic of the day? Do
Roll
you have all the
on
information for the topic
do we
of the day?
literally roll on, or do we roll on?
Do we just?
Whenever you say roll, I want to roll.
No, that's let's roll.
Okay, so
we're gonna roll on.
We've had a lot of fun. We've talked a lot of sports. I've gotten over my feelings and expressed them about the Oilers. And but now let's talk about a little bit more of a serious issue.
Okay, let's roll the music first.
Yeah.
Okay, hooray! It's time for the topic of the day.
It's hip hip hooray! It's time for the topic of the day.
So
hip, hip, hooray!
So
it's time for the topic.
So
of the
last.
day.
Bing! So last week we had something major happen federally in the courts in Canada.
Yeah.
And rolling back a couple of years ago,
it's the 2-year anniversary just happened this week.
Right. We went to Ottawa, but it was a little bit after that, I think.
We went in March.
Yeah, and the Freedom
This happened in end of January, beginning of February.
So a bunch of we have a friend actually who was there and had his vehicle confiscated
and destroyed.
I don't know if it was destroyed.
Well, it was smashed.
Yeah. So
smashed and grabbed.
It was part of the freedom rally / protest of all the trucks going to Ottawa.
Yeah.
2 years ago,
hooligans, as they call them.
Yeah, to protest some of these vaccination rules, some of these.
They were misogynists, racists.
Yeah, and so they parked, and depending on who you talk to,
I'm being facetious, by the way.
If it's mainstream media, they were very loud and they were looting and obnoxious and
stealing food from homeless people.
Yeah. And if you talk to whichever side politically you talk about, the other sides know they were quiet and they were
giving out food.
Everyone loved them, and who knows, we weren't there.
Partying. We watched a lot of video of it.
Where the truth was.
We saw a live video from there.
Yeah.
From at the time it was Bridge City News.
Yeah.
I think they're still around.
Yeah.
And Bridge City News.
By the way, shout out to Bridge City News. We have a couple friends that work for that organization. Yeah.
And they were the ones that actually broadcast live from there, and they showed what was actually going on during the day, during the evening, and during the night.
Yeah.
And not once did we see any kind of looting or throwing things or fights or racists or anything like that.
Political bantering as far as propaganda, what was happening. But what ended and what got them to be able to take all of those people out of downtown Ottawa by the Parliament buildings out of there was that the government of Canada did something that was very unconventional, and
they initiated the Emergencies Act, which was the first time the Emergencies Act's ever been placed. Prior to that, it was called the War Measures Act, and the War Measures Act was last put in place during something that happened in Quebec. I don't know the exact history, so I'm not going to speak on that.
The FLQ crisis, right?
Okay.
In the 70s.
And it was done by Pierre Trudeau.
Yeah.
He's the one that put in the War Measures Act. After the War Measures Act happened, they actually renamed it and reworded it and made it the Emergencies Act.
Yeah.
And the Emergencies Act had never, ever been used in Canada until that day.
Yeah, I believe the War Measures Act was before that it was in place, but either way. So yeah, the Emergencies Act took over, but basically they used it to get special powers to get a group of people out of there without having legal rights, and they waived a lot of those things.
The reason they need to use the Emergencies Act was to get multiple police forces and resources in one place and utilize them outside of their jurisdiction, essentially.
So not only the Liberal Party, but the NDP in collaboration with the Liberals.
Well, it was a coalition,
agreed to sign off on this.
They collided.
Yeah, because
because
it couldn't have happened without the NDP signing off on it. And a lot of people...
Shout out to Jagmeet Singh.
Shout out.
Shout out to Jagmeet Singh.
Matthew can reach out to him maybe to get him on the podcast. But the question always was, did the actions that were taking place warrant the Emergencies Measures Act? And in the last couple of years, the Liberal government kind of had a quasi look into it as far as
well, there was an investigation,
which you could argue was legitimate or not.
And in the investigation, it came out that it was a legitimate reason to use the Emergencies Act, and this was a what is it called? Like an internal investigation within the government, which had somebody appointed by the Liberal government to investigate.
And if anybody knows anything about when that happens, it's basically how
paperwork.
How quickly can we do this to make us not look bad?
It's paperwork.
And if you don't believe that, you don't understand politics.
Yeah.
But anyway,
on both sides.
Yeah. So now, 2 years later, what happened last week was there was groups that took this further to another judge, and the judge said no.
Federal court. Yeah.
A federal court. A judge said no. Of course, it didn't warrant you using the Emergency Measures Act.
Yeah.
And this was big news. A lot of people that were quote unquote freedom fighters or believed that at least these actions were overstepping the bounds of the government are applauding this.
So now the government has come out, and so Chrystia Freeland has come out and said that they don't agree with the decision made by them. They don't agree with, the court's answers and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Which of course
and they're gonna appeal it, which makes sense that they're gonna appeal it and everything like that. And of course they're gonna appeal it. But here's the problem with it is they're gonna put it through the appeal process.
Yeah.
And all the people that they had their bank accounts frozen, they had their trucks smashed, they had their stuff taken away, and all the stuff where they're gonna have retribution, where they can go after the government for the stuff that was taken from them. They're going to go through an appeal process now, and the appeal process is going to take so long that in a year and a half, when the next election comes, that's when the appeals will probably end. And then who's going to be on the hook for all of this?
Right. And backtracking, we have some friends on the far right that'll be like, we demand justice. Trudeau should be taken into prison and all these things, which is never going to happen. If you think that's going to happen, you're smoking something that I'd like a piece of.
Would you?
I don't know. That's that good.
Yeah.
But these are things that aren't going to happen. So to your point, yes, it's likely, and this is my question to you, and this is kind of the topic of discussion, is what's the point now? Because as you said, they're going to delay this so long, and Trudeau's numbers are so low.
They're just they're taking a nosedive.
If you think that Trudeau, and he says he's going to run, I don't believe it. I don't think he's going to run.
I think it's just smoke and mirrors right now.
Right. The Liberal government, he's going to step down. The Liberal government is going to have someone else in his place. They're going to get killed in the next election, or at least lose it.
Yeah.
And so they're delaying it to the point where when that bill comes, they're paying for it.
Yeah.
Is that?
But here's the thing: as those people who had things taken from them, their bank accounts, all their stuff that was taken from them, they deserve. If the ruling is that it was not warranted, they deserve the retribution / whatever they get from it.
This becomes a monetary issue.
It does. And for some of these people, they went to jail. And some of them were in jail for a long time. Some of them were in there for weeks and months. And they were put in there because of something.
Based on something that a judge now has said was not warranted. And at the time, a lot of people...
And we might be speaking out of turn on this because we don't know all the details and all the information. So just before the fact checkers come in and start yelling at us on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and everything like that, this is just based on what we've heard so far. So this isn't we don't know how everything would work. But if I was one of those people who had my bank account frozen and I missed payments on my mortgage, or I missed, things where I was penalized, or I lost a vehicle or a semi-truck, I would be upset. Because there's no proof that anybody was doing anything illegal in what they said was a legal demonstration. The problem with the demonstration was, they said they wouldn't leave until they got to meet with Justin Trudeau. And Justin Trudeau flat out would not. And he's met with a lot of different groups. He's met with any other group that's protested other than ones that are protesting him. So, but here's the thing, originally they said, we just want a meeting. We want to talk with you. We want to have cameras in a meeting to be able to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And he never gave it to them. So they didn't leave.
Yeah.
And I think they were there for 2 weeks.
They were there for quite a long time.
And here's the problem. Once you're there for a day, it's news. 2 days, it's big news.
Yeah.
2 weeks?
It just kept growing.
It was getting bigger because people were coming.
Yeah.
More and more people came because they're like, oh, this is going to happen where we're going to keep sitting here.
Yeah.
And I have no doubt that if they didn't do the Emergencies Act, there would have been still people there in March when we went.
I imagine so, yeah.
So,
unless that Trudeau agreed.
Unless they agreed to meet with them.
Right, so it's like meet with them or War Measures Act.
Emergencies
Act, yeah.
But here's the thing, though. What they did, I think, still helped things, push things along.
Right.
So, like the vaccination requirement for different events or going across the border and all that kind of stuff. It took a long time still after that.
Yeah.
But I think that those things were wins for that group.
Yeah.
The problem I have with it, though, is that he didn't meet with them when he could have.
Right.
He could have met with them. Like, he has his own guards, he has his own service, he has his own everything. He could have met with them very easily.
Yeah.
And why not? Why not be the leader, the general, the person leading from the front?
Right.
And the person that always spoke was Chrystia Freeland.
Right. So politically, you're always looking at your back end politically as far as what makes you look good. Like, it doesn't matter what's truth or not.
Is he, though?
Perception. I would think so. And
maybe
not even him, but his handlers are. So and this was during the whole thing. He had people that say COVID was not political. It definitely was a lot political.
Yeah.
So the Liberal Party has to appease a certain population of his voters.
Yeah.
Right. And a certain population of these voters, and this is why you had the propaganda, because you heard just as well, like a lot of people that even though we respected and we applauded the actions of the truckers going to Ottawa.
Yeah.
Well, on the other side of the spectrum, the people on the left were saying these horrible people.
Yeah.
And they're wrecking everything. And why don't they just shut up?
And those people. So the truckers, after the first few days, were honking at night and everything like that. So yes, that was disruptive.
Right.
So a friend of ours that lives down there, like he knows that he could hear the honking at night.
Right.
But they stopped doing that.
Yeah.
They actually put a moratorium, I think is what it's called, on honking. Yeah. And it has to stop by a certain time, and it could only start by a certain time in the morning.
Right.
So it couldn't happen all day.
Right.
Or it couldn't happen all night. So that was like they kept doing as much as they could to look like they're giving what they got to give.
Yeah.
Because they wanted what they wanted. They wanted a meeting, they wanted face-to-face, and they wanted to talk. And doing the Emergencies Act was literally the government's way of saying, you are not welcome.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to be here.
Yeah.
And the people that were there were Indigenous.
Yeah.
They were Asian, they were East Asian, they were white, they were European, they were African. There was every race there. If you watched mainstream media, they would show white truckers.
But that's the propaganda of it, right?
And you can call it propaganda if you want, but what I don't get is, and I guess it's because they're funded by the government, but I don't get how they could honestly sit there.
They being
the media,
right.
Honestly sit there and promote the negativity without actually talking.
Yeah, but we saw through the whole time the media was quite biased in their looking at all of the aspects. This is not just one event where they were biased. They were biased through the entire thing. Agree or disagree with them. They were very much for the
and some people agree
the restrictions.
And that's their choices.
And some people on the left, and these are the voters that Mr. Trudeau is trying to suffice, right? Are the people that are very much on the other side. Do what you're told. Keep indoors, 6 feet away from others, and don't rock the boat, right? And of course, rocking the boat is part of what the truckers were doing. They were rocking the boat. So if you stand on that left side of the ledger, they should just be quiet, wait till it's all over, play it safe like a good Canadian. Yeah,
and I agree that like there's two sides to every story, and not everybody has the full truth, and not everybody's going to get the full truth. And fighting from the left, fighting from the right, it really frustrates me that they'll fight with each other. Like, I want to believe what I want to believe, and I want you to believe what you want to believe.
Yeah.
And I want you just to leave the politics out of your relationship.
Right.
And I really think that if he met with them and left politics out of it,
Right.
and just said, let's sit down.
Yeah.
I am the leader
but
of
him
the
sitting
country.
down with that group of people may not suffice the people that he wants to vote for him.
No, but
because they want him to do these things.
But it's
get them the heck out of Ottawa. Like take the police in there, clear them out.
An interview / meeting with cameras, and I always think that you have to lead from the front.
Right.
And if you want to lead, and your constituents, and I say this about my MP and my MLA as well, you might not be who I voted for.
Yeah.
But I do want you to represent me.
Right.
And I think that if I had voted for Trudeau,
yeah,
and obviously, like, I'm not going to say that I did because I didn't, but if I had voted for him and he was my leader,
yeah,
I would be very disappointed that my leader couldn't have enough cojones to stand up in front of the people that are there and meet with them.
Right.
Because honestly, if I was on that side,
yeah,
and I was told all they want is a meeting,
yeah,
and he gave them the meeting that they're requesting.
Yeah.
If they didn't leave after that meeting, that's when I would be pissed.
Right.
That's when I would be angry because they got what they wanted,
so
but they never got what they wanted.
You thought is partially lazy politics.
100% lazy.
Right. And like you said, like we happen to all be from the right side of the spectrum politically. So I always try to think of, yes, but there is another side.
Yes.
And I remember like you'd be afraid to post like I'm with the truckers things on your social media page, because someone's going to say you're a hatred, you're a misogynist. And that's what happens all the time in politics. And this is one of the things that I would like to endeavor, I think we do as the Greg and Tim show, to endeavor not just to have one side of the equation or the other side in the topic, but talking about the third option, which is us getting together and discussing things with someone that thinks, outside of what our way of thinking. And if anyone wants to talk back to us on the left side or the political
I'm open
spectrum,
to listening.
Like, tell us why you think, or do you think that how this changes this new court hearing?
Yep.
Do you think the war or the Emergencies Act was warranted in the first place? And on the right side, do you feel vindicated if you supported that right side, or if you were a trucker? So
that's the question for everybody.
Yeah.
A, do you feel vindicated by the ruling by the federal court? And B, if you're on the left side, do you feel that this is a black eye on the government, or do you feel like this was the wrong decision by the court?
And shout out to Sheldon, is our buddy that was in Ottawa with the truck, and he's a great guy.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, I do know a few people that were there, and I wouldn't paint them as being what they were painted as.
And there's always some.
And it's disappointing because, like, I have friends on both sides, and I appreciate where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Because you have to have values. You have to stand for your values, and you have to stand for what you believe in. At the same time, you have to be open to listening to other people and open to talking to other people.
Absolutely.
Because the power is in listening to both sides. We had Chuck Burr on here last week, and he talked to us about the moon landing from his point of view. Doesn't mean that we have to agree with him.
And I had him on for that specific reason. Let's get somebody that doesn't think like us, and that goes for the larger spectrum.
Yeah.
Let's just talk things out. Let's hash things out,
and let's have fun.
Yeah. Let's agree to disagree, and then go have some chicken wings with some sugar-free sauce afterwards.
Chicken wings. Shout out to Jen at the Fire Flames.
Oh yeah, so
man, they've been good, eh?
You didn't notice I stole them.
You stole, yeah.
He was going into his fridge and he was gonna go. He had those 3 hot sauces. If you didn't watch the episode last week, please go back, watch it.
Watch it.
We talked to Jen, who was manufactured 3 awesome flavors
wings.
of chicken wings.
Our wing
hot sauce.
Yep.
And I wasn't supposed to take it. I asked, "Can I take one?" No.
You said you were going to buy some.
I still am.
Yeah,
but temporarily, because
I
wanted them today. So when he wasn't looking, I took the green pepper sauce, and so he went into his fridge and he's like, "I would like the green pepper sauce on my." And then it wasn't
that's
there.
The one made for the eggs,
and so I had taken it.
Yeah,
and we have a little video.
I still haven't tried it. The eggs look good. Wait, I need some sauce for these guys. Let me grab some sauce. No, let's get this guy. Yeah. Elevating the spice levels. Let's see. I want to get the green stuff. I want to get that friendly fire. Let's see. Flamin' fire. Nice. Wait a minute. Fruity. Hey. What the?
Greg, are you looking for this?
Tim. Give me back my friendly fire. But anyway,
funny, yeah.
Anyway, Tim, it's a great discussion today.
Yeah,
a lot of sports, which is fantastic. We love the sports talk. If we could have just a sports talk show,
then Wade wouldn't
watch anymore, and some other people wouldn't watch. But at the same time, like we do have topics that come up, and if you have any kind of topics that you want to talk to us about, feel free to let us know. We would love to hear like different topics that you want us to talk about, and we'll look them up, we'll check them out, and we'll see if they're interesting.
And what's our challenge? No, like I told Greg this last week. I'm disappointed nobody's given us a challenge. Like for us to do anything, for Greg to do anything, for Tim to do anything, and nobody's come up.
We're gonna have a challenge. We'll figure something out.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah.
Thanks for watching the show today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching on Spotify or listening on Spotify, what I'd like you to do is click on the old review and click the 5 stars. And if you're watching on, or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure you provide us with a review and write something nice about Tim, because it helps boost his ego a little bit. Also,
self-esteem is the word you were looking
self-esteem. But we do appreciate you listening, and thanks for checking us out every week. And feel free to share it with your friends if you really like it. Anyways, thanks for watching the show. Have a great day.
Thanks for watching the Greg and Tim Show podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with all your friends. Sharing is caring.